On today's episode of the Bubs and T Bag Show, the guys demand the immediate return of the mixed salad shaker.
Are you saying you could toss your own salad?
Yeah, you could. You could toss your own salad by shaking your hand up and down in a motion.
Really?
Yeah.
Bubs floats the idea of a Kamala Harris tea bag ticket in November.
You'd do her.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you would.
I promise I wouldn't.
No, you would do her.
I plead the fifth, Bubs.
Tea Bag breaks down the current state of fast food price inflation.
I could care less if McDonald's goes tits up at this point. Fuck it.
All this and pontifications with the professor. Coming up.
Bubs, you are entering a world of pain. A world of pain, my friend.
Love. I just have to say something outright.
Do it.
My name is Bubs.
Hi, I'm T Bag.
I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, you are, aren't you? So am I. After our last showing, welcome everybody to the Bubs and T Bag Show, where we talk everything from alcohol poisoning to old movies to old men in old Minnesota and things like that. We've been off the air a little while. We have been, doing a little summer break like everyone else, but we had a little bit of a hang-up a couple of weeks ago where we were doing our one-year anniversary. I guess you'd call it an episode, right?
I would say it was an episode. Maybe more than an episode. Was it an issue? Was it an incident?
Yeah. Things got off the rails, I believe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It did.
I don't know how. Well, maybe we should just play a little clip, kind of explain. Here we go.
You can shit on the floor. You can shit on a horse face. We don't give a fuck. But you know what we're going to make sure? We're going to make sure you get there the next day. You're going to show up on time.
So, yeah, that's kind of what we were dealing with there.
Well, it was 1 year.
It was.
And then we talked about The Big Lebowski.
We were reviewing our favorite movie.
And doing White Russians.
That's
Caucasians.
That's what did us in. Or that's what did me in.
Did me in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the White Russians, and I think also I made a bit of a coaching mistake there with the choice of liquor.
That coffee Kahlua imitation garbage brand that you brought in here was an insult to me personally.
Yeah.
And an insult to my GI tract.
Well,
the next day, as a person who tries not to consume any type of sugar, what was that?
High fructose Chinese syrup or something?
Yeah, it just destroyed me.
For everyone listening, we decided to make White Russians last show a couple weeks ago. You already heard one clip. We'll probably maybe throw in a couple other ones later. The Phillips Distillery is actually located proudly in Princeton.
And God bless them. But
yeah. But if you overdo it, you're gonna feel it, and we overdid it.
Yeah, it came in hot.
I bought all Phillips products to make the White Russians, Phillips vodka, and then Phillips also apparently has a coffee liqueur that's kind of like a Kahlua.
Mm-hmm.
I would have bought Kahlua, but I refused to pay $30 for a fifth.
No, I get that. Yeah, I get that.
So I bought Kimono, or whatever the fuck it was called.
Kimono.
Yeah, it's something like that.
The dragon.
For $12 for a fifth. And we started mixing, but before we even started mixing them, I met Bubs at one of our favorite joints down the road, the Highway Inn. I get there. Bubs had been there for about 10 minutes, and he's already got a White Russian down, which, it's a free country. That's his choice.
You know what I was?
But I had to join in.
I was the pace setter, kind of like in a marathon. You want to be at the 6-minute group, or do you want to be with the 10-minute group? Well, we were in the 5:50.
Yeah, we
group.
were in the
Five.
Ethiopian guy, who finishes
Kenyan with the big
an hour and 59 minutes or whatever.
The big smile and a bad sweater.
Yeah, so that was one to really kind of remember. We had a great time. I did like talking about the movie with you. Maybe that'll be one of our lost episodes someday.
It'll be on the greatest hits.
Right. Nonetheless, we are very sober today. We're drinking McDonald's coffee.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Also, welcome to the professor. He's sitting in with us today. He's going to give us some pontifications a little bit later. We're always excited to have such an educated guest on the show like the professor. So, I got to say, Bubs, and I know, and we've talked on the show a few times, me and McDonald's, I haven't had McDonald's for probably close to 2 months.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I deleted the app.
That's a smart choice for you.
It is. And it really wasn't because I have a huge bone to pick with McDonald's, other than it's become unaffordable for the common man, in my opinion.
What did this run you today?
Let's see. We each got a coffee. I got an iced coffee, which might be a little more expensive. And then there were 3 McGriddles in there. I think that was still like $27, maybe, from what I remember.
Okay.
Maybe even a little more than that.
Jeez, that's insanity. You know what?
No,
3
dude,
years ago we could have went to a diner and had breakfast for
Yeah.
$18. Total.
I gave the guy $30 and he gave me, there was $4. Yeah, so like $26 for 3 coffees and 3 sandwiches, breakfast sandwiches.
Man.
You want to hear something else about McDonald's that I just discovered the other day? This is true, and, a little factoid here, but the running gag amongst people is that, hey, you want to go to McDonald's and get an ice cream or a shake? And the gag is always, well, the machine is broken.
Yeah.
And it often is broken a lot of times. I think you even had a relative that worked at one of these locations once, and he might be able to testify to that.
Yeah, he could. Under direct interrogation, he may admit to it.
Here's the thing I found out about the ice cream machine. It's all a scam. And it's really sad, actually. The ice cream machines that McDonald's uses are made by a company called Taylor. These Taylor ice cream machines are legitimately 30-year relics. Some of them are even older than that. The reason that McDonald's still uses them is this old, good old boy agreement that they had where they're going to keep those machines in service. If you're a franchisee, you have to have that machine. You cannot have any other one. It's only a Taylor ice cream machine that's allowed. And they need to be repaired very frequently because, like I said, it's 30-year-old technology. The user interface and the control panel on it is all like dot matrix type digital. Mm-hmm. Looks like it's from a TV set you had back in 1992. And it'll give all these bizarre error messages, and then you have to call the technician, the Taylor ice cream man technician. He shows up. It costs $100 and some for the first 15 minutes, and then another like $85 per 15 minutes. And that's all absorbed by the franchisee, not McDonald's.
Sure.
So that's why you're getting screwed, is because there's this old agreement in place where they don't have modern equipment to do their ice cream.
So don't get the ice cream. That's a lot of times we would just go.
Well, get it.
I would take the kids.
It's
up.
always fucking broken. It's for real.
I never ran into that. I don't think I've ever ran into that problem locally where I lived. Maybe on the road or something. Hey, can I get a shake? No, I'm sorry.
It's broken. Well, I'll say this. The one here in town, I think the ice cream has only been broken maybe once that I can remember. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I gave the stuff up close to 2 months ago. I deleted the app, which I used probably a couple times a week until that point. And the reason I deleted it is it's no longer affordable.
And you were using it a couple times a week. I mean,
I was, yeah. That's not like super good for you.
No, I come out here and once in a while I'll have one. Or
I remember one time you left the show here and got a couple of burgers.
Yeah, but all I got was the meat. Yeah, I peeled the bread off.
Okay. Yeah.
Double.
Keep things healthy. Yeah.
Keep it healthy.
Yeah.
But
you have though. Like I said,
I'm down 20.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. I'm not.
Yeah.
Speaking of McDonald's and their food, did you see that guy who did the show Super Size Me died like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
That guy's the reason that a lot of this fast food shit got out of control, and it's lame because everybody knows that fast food isn't good for you. You're not supposed to eat it 3 times a fucking day for a month. Even I wouldn't do that.
Man, I grew up with some people that they at lunchtime every day.
Yeah.
It was Wendy's.
McDonald's. They'd eat a whole meal there.
Yep.
Even if I were to get it a couple times a week, I'd still, like, for example, this McGriddle I got, I've eaten half of it, and that's it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to eat the rest of it.
Well, what about the old salad they had there? Remember they had the grilled chicken Caesar salad for a while? They had the salad.
Remember the salad shakers?
Yeah.
It was like in a...
do that again?
Yeah, it was in like a plastic cup.
Yeah.
And it had like a little plastic dome.
Are you saying you could toss your own salad?
Yeah, you could. You could toss your own salad by shaking your hand up and down in a motion.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you a slow shaker or
I
a fast shaker?
I never tried one.
Were you vigorous?
No. I always went with the... a
dry salad?
The McDoubles, No, that guy, though, who made the movie, Morgan Spurlock, he died. And I guess... when that whole Me Too movement kind of came out like 6 years ago or whatever, that sort of still hasn't gone away. That dude preemptively Me Too'd himself. It started catching like steam with the Harvey Weinstein stuff. and a few people got exposed, like celebrities or famous people. This Spurlock guy writes a open letter kind of to himself on the internet that says, I'm part of the problem or something like that. And
Well, he wasn't that famous. I mean, it's not
no,
like a
no, but I think
major influential celebrity.
His company though, his like movie company had like 30 or 40 employees. So, I mean, you're right. He wasn't super famous, but I think in that world, he at least carried some weight. He might have even gotten like, an Academy Award or something, or at least been up for one. Not that that means much to me, but to those people, it kind of does. But no, he sent out this letter that was like, yeah, I've behaved improperly with some of my employees over the years and blah, 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 sexually in nature. And when I was in college, I hooked up with a girl and, she kind of didn't want it or something like that. He's basically admitting to rape.
Yeah.
Or something.
Was it back in the 80s?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
The standards were different.
Yeah, different.
Yeah.
Different set of rules in 1984.
Yeah.
But, anyways, he writes it and then, he's promptly basically buried. His production company goes under. He has to file for bankruptcy. All his employees quit. And then a couple of years later, he wrote another letter saying, wow, I'm really surprised with, the backlash here. I lost everything. Well, no shit, you dumbass. You didn't realize this was designed to basically execute people publicly without, putting the gun to the back of their head and put them on their knees?
Yeah.
That's what it was designed to do. He came clean, around that time that he did the Me Too stuff, was saying he'd been a severe alcoholic his entire life since his teens. So a lot of people are going, well, maybe the fucking McDonald's tests were actually because you're such a booze hound. I don't know. I could care less if McDonald's goes tits up at this point. Fuck it.
They won't.
Yeah, you're right.
They'll survive. They've been through, established in the 50s. They've seen it all.
Do you know the name of the guy who started it?
Mel?
Ray Kroc.
Ray Kroc, that's right.
Yeah.
I watched the
with Michael Keaton
story. It was pretty interesting.
I think it was called The Founder or something.
Yeah, that was a good story.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
You could tell that the guy, wherever he went, he was always like really
looking at everything.
Looking at, he was really focused with efficiency and consistency and stuff like that.
And a salesman.
A great salesman, I think.
Yeah, Ray Kroc. That was a good story. But look at what it turned into.
Speaking of Crocs.
Crock of shit.
Did you watch the fucking presidential debate?
I did watch the Hootenanny.
I got to watch it, but it's kind of in a weird... I was exposed to it initially with watching it on a TV in a bar, but the volume wasn't on. Right?
So you just watched facial expressions?
No, I mean, they had like the, wording at the bottom, but it was like, bar music was in the background. I guess they just didn't want to put the volume on. Normally they just have sports on, but they actually put this on, which was, I was looking at this going, this, maybe is historic in a way. And it sure seems like maybe it was because, boy, people were in there laughing and stuff. And I'm following it along on Twitter/X. And then I saw some stuff after I got off work, and boy, did that guy screw the fucking pooch, Biden. I mean, he's not there at all. At all.
So all the handlers, all the inner sanctum, they know he's fucked up. If you pay any attention to what he does and says, he's fucked up.
Yeah.
They pulled him, I've listened to some other shows where they call it like necromancing Biden for that election in 2020. They pulled him out of the basement. He did not want to be a part of it. But
yeah,
at the time, you have to remember that Sanders was leading.
Right.
And so they did everything in their power to destroy Sanders. And they did. They got rid of him.
Well, they got rid of him from running for president. He's still he's senator from Vermont or whatever.
He's been neutered.
Well, he just wants to buy another house, basically.
Well, that's all right. But my point is they brought in a puppet, a figurehead, Biden, name recognition, backed by Obama, and all the apparati that is backed with Obama, put Biden in the White House. Whether you believe it's legitimate 80 million votes for Biden or you think there was some dicknanigans in some of these cities and counties, which there probably was.
Yeah.
Because it's a political machine that's running the show. And they know he was fucked up. They knew he was fucked up then. He never went out on a campaign trail.
And they could disguise it a little better because it was during, quote unquote, COVID.
Yes.
Right.
So then he gets elected. He takes over. And then he signs 56 executive orders in a very short span of time. And he probably doesn't even know what 90% of them are. But they threw him out there at an unprecedented debate time in June of an election year. And I think they decided probably this year that they need somebody else. So what they did is they put him out there and destroyed him. So there's no way he can win. I mean, about 9 months ago, you and I were saying that they're going to run him and he's going to win.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
we've always been steadfast with,
Trump's going to get buried.
Trump's going to, get buried. At this point, Bubs, I think, from what you're kind of saying, you're kind of in the camp where you're like, hey, I think that this is the planned way that they take him down.
Yep.
I sort of agree, but I also think in a way, I don't know that they're that smart. I mean, these fuckers were trying to keep this under wraps for the last 4 years.
It wasn't about keeping it under wraps. So he's an acolyte of Obama. So you could say he's O'Biden. And the Obamas are pulling the strings on his fucking show. I think there's division because Jill wants to hang on to it. There are other people that are in his camp that want to hang on to it. There's going to be conflict. All right. So that's normal.
Yeah. I think Obama kind of wants to control him. Probably does a little bit with some things.
You have to look at...
But I think the biggest controller right now is his wife.
Yeah. She's the access
and his
gatekeeper.
son. I think his son is also saying, and it's only rumblings right now. By the time this airs, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly yesterday, there were rumors that, okay, he's gonna concede, which I guess would make Kamala the president. She would then run, but supposedly at a meeting at Camp David, Hunter was very vocal about telling his dad to stay in.
You know why?
Well, yeah, because he doesn't want to go to fucking prison.
He needs a pardon. And if Trump wins, Trump should pardon him.
That would be funny.
Yeah. So the other, I think, odd thing is the day of that debate, Michelle Obama publicly stated that she will not campaign for Joe Biden.
Okay.
Because Bo, the dead kids?
Yeah, Bo was his son who died of cancer.
And so the ex-wife or the wife of him, right, the widow, was, I think, good friends with Michelle Obama. And then she got pushed to the side.
After Hunter started fucking her.
Yeah, but she got pushed to the side, and then Michelle was pissed about that.
The rumblings I've read about on X are that's what they also have said, is that the Obamas especially, even though he's publicly coming out in defense of them, like, the day after the debate, Barack Obama himself was like, listen, folks, we all have bad debates, okay? He started doing that shit. He's got to kind of do that to, put on this public perception that he's trying to save face for his buddy. I think in reality, though, you're right. They're kind of going, hey, dude, do it this way. You're fucking everything up. Just listen to us. And I think he's kind of pushing back, going through family, through Jill and through Hunter. No, we're going to stay in this. We're in this to win this. And I think it's like you said, he wants a pardon or he wants to stay out of prison.
Yeah. We don't know the depth of the bench, right? I mean, we could really do a hard dive in who's who and who's the assistant to who and who's the undersecretary of this, and that, and who are the cabinet people that are in there, right? We could go down the list and then see who the apparatus that supports those people and how many of them are tied to Obama and the former administration in some factor. There's a lot.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
They're also probably tied into maybe even a certain religious sect. I'm not even sure which one, but who knows? I'll look into it. I'll deep dive it soon. Things got very quiet in here all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going. I mean, are we going Islam or what?
Not really.
Okay. Or pride?
Who knows? Yeah, that is kind of a religion now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank God. That month is over. Did you celebrate? Or?
Ironically, it's one of the 7 deadly sins.
It really is, isn't it?
Being prideful.
It's kind of like going out and just having a gluttony festival. Can you imagine if it was, hey...
You mean a cum-guzzling gluttony festival?
Yeah, right.
Oh, did I say that?
That's basically what it is, right?
Sure.
I saw some video. It's all over now. I mean, it's been like this for a few years, but it's always these things where it's a video of like a pride parade somewhere, and it's always like some out of shape, like naked man in his 50s with a dog mask and a collar.
In tighty whities.
No, nude below the waist, and there's children, standing on the side of the road with their parents who brought them there to.
Okay, I have one question.
Witness this bullshit.
One question: is he clacking?
So we called it clanking.
I know, but it's clacking.
Might as well keep it.
You know what? I'm making a correction, and I'm willing to know. To our viewers, our listeners, it's clacking.
Okay, clacking instead of clanking.
Yeah. So is that 50-year-old male well hung and clacking
From what
his penis?
it was like blurred out, but he was definitely clacking, I believe, as the youngsters say.
Well, hopefully it was humid.
Yeah, I don't know, buddy. All I know is that
if you're a fucking scumbag that brings your kids to a gay pride festival, that's X-rated shit.
Yeah, you should be forced to do labor.
It's like
at that point.
making your kids watch porn at age 8.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a fucking fuck.
Straight to the gulag, in my opinion.
I think the Makarov should come out with that 9x18 and just one in the back of the head.
Those are nice pistols.
Yeah.
Made for one reason and one reason only, from what I understand.
Dissidents.
Supposedly in the Eastern Bloc, and I think even Japan, they still do it this way. In Japan, I think they're a little more humane. They hang them. There's a special room for it. It's like a secret place. I don't think they televise it, but in Japan, when you're sentenced to death, you don't know which day it's coming. They just show up one day and
it's not like a Johnny Cash song where I got 25 minutes to go.
No. And I heard that in communist Soviet Union, when your number was up, you didn't know it either, and they just came and shot you in the back of the head in your cell. I don't know how true that is, but I could believe.
I would imagine there's examples of both ways throughout the.
We'll ask the
Soviet
professor
history.
about that one soon.
But to get back to the debate, what about the 25th Amendment? Chip Roy out of Texas is demanding that goes into effect.
That's counterproductive, and he should shut his fucking mouth.
I doubt it. No, it's not. How is it counterproductive? Explain that.
Keeping that retard in there until the actual election should be the goal. They've already gone this far. What's another 4 months?
I agree, but he's also a retard that is now known culturally, right? It's now known culturally that he's compromised. Worldwide. And why would you keep the retard in there? Just based on, let's all just rally around the fact that we're in America, we're Americans.
Yes.
And you have the man of the free fucking world is now a retard.
The
He's
man with the nuclear codes.
The man with the football, the man who can, meet and fly all over the world, do everything he needs to do to keep this world free, as they say. Why not get rid of him and put Kamala in there? Let her run the show for 4 months, and you can see that disaster.
What's your prediction? Is that what happens?
I don't think there's enough traction for a 25th Amendment. I think they'll just let it ride out to the election. They'll run him. They're not going to replace him. I think the Democrats play a longer game. They're more organized. They're more grassroots. Republicans are inept, feckless, besides a few examples. And what's going to happen is Trump will win, which we did not predict months ago, but he will win, whether he's in prison or he's going to win, right?
Yeah,
the option is him. And the Democrats will let a lame duck 4-year Trump come because they can just rain on him.
Right. They can stymie him
at any moment.
Yeah.
All the time and just blah, 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 lie.
Right.
And they'll let him run out his 4 years. Who he picks as a vice president will be interesting.
Yeah, he still hasn't said that yet.
And then they'll take a Newsom or they'll take a Whitmer or they'll take somebody else that we're not even thinking about. They already have a long ball plan. The Republicans are barely reactionary and they're fucking feckless and they're ballless. And put Kamala in there. Let her run the show for 4 months. Let's see the shit show.
Yeah, I don't think it would be any worse.
No. She would just giggle and laugh
either.
and, make somebody else will tell her what to sign, what to do.
Cackling.
Yeah. You'd do her.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you would.
I promise I wouldn't.
You would do her.
I plead the fifth, Bubs.
If she was sitting here at the show and you guys were having some gin and tonics, she's probably a nice person in private.
Probably.
Yeah.
But, she shouldn't be leading the country, in my opinion.
No, but they should. The Republicans, if they had any balls, rally the votes, get rid of fucking Biden and fucking put in Harris, and then see that's a line in the sand that they just drew. But they're going to stumble fuck around and talk and blah, blah, blah. Trump's going to have his rallies, and the Republican Party's just...
Well, they're all kind of on the same team with the exception of one or two people. One of them being Thomas Massey, who is the only congressman, I believe, who's not in the pocket of the Nation of Israel. He's not part of their PAC, their Political Action Committee.
Okay.
He's the only person who's not necessarily opposed to the Nation of Israel. He's more just saying, why is this one country buying representatives on both sides of the aisle? He was giving examples recently to Tucker Carlson going, I work with other lawmakers who say, hey, I like this idea, but I got to check with my AIPAC person, which is the Israeli Political Action Committee. Massey's saying that he doesn't agree with this, directly opposed to this kind of stuff in
So
U.S.
how
politics.
soon will we see his character tarnished or his something on him?
Well, a couple days ago, Bubs, his wife mysteriously, quote unquote, died suddenly. And
are you kidding
They've
me?
been together for 35 years. High school sweethearts.
That kind of hits close to home.
And this guy is like a, what do you call it? He lives off grid and makes videos about, hey, here's how I do my chickens,
Sure.
and he's one of those guys that really values family. Yeah, she turned up dead a couple days ago. He made one announcement, and then other than that, I think he's kind of been dealing with that.
So he's done now for the rest of the season.
Boy, I don't know, but it's just crazy how the one guy who's brought that up, suddenly his wife goes bye-bye.
Maybe she had COVID.
Yeah, you never know. It could be very easily something like that. I'm going to take my tinfoil hat off now, but yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that one up. The one guy who's kind of going, hey, we're all fighting here, and things seem like they're past the point of no return, but I've noticed something. We're all being sponsored by the same nation, that isn't the United States.
Well, whether it's a nation state, whether it's a corporation, whether it's one of the big businesses like oil, or whether it's manufacturing, or whether it's steel or something, right? Throughout our history, there has been wars because of resources. There's been wars because of bananas. There's been wars because of this, and this.
What you're seeing has definitely happened before. It's just
well, you look at
it's
Biden.
weird.
How
Yeah.
Biden's fucked up right now. Well, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke, and his wife were signing the documents, and
Really?
they kept it under wraps at the end. Yeah, so there's nothing new under the sun.
I think the Bidens want to stay in power at this point because the gig is up. They know that somebody in that family is going to prison.
No, will
You don't
never
think
happen.
so?
Maybe a Hunter.
Well, yeah.
But Hunter, I think, is going to get pushed to the side, and then it's just going to kind of dissolve because a lot of the mindset of 30 days ago has now changed.
Yeah,
Because of that
debate.
debate, and they knew that was going to happen.
The crazy thing, though, is there's a lot of people on the left that are sort of like, I call them like Twitter pundits, where they're not really on a TV network. Maybe they were at one point, but now they're not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
These people are kind of, they've been very, very opposed to Trump since day one. After that debate, they're now doing this bizarre sort of pearl-clutching bullshit where they're going, I can't believe that this is happening. He's clearly fucked up and he should drop out. And it's like, dude.
Well, then that really shows
We've
the
been
ignorance
telling
of
you this for the last 4 fucking years.
Well, it's because they're just ignorant.
Right.
And they're not really truly intellectuals or smart.
No. They're just
Because
going along with the party line.
It's in July of 2020, of August of 2020, when that fucker refused to get out of his basement and would have a rally with 18 vehicles in front of him.
Yeah.
Right?
Where they're separated by 6 feet.
While Trump's going all over the country and having 50,000 people show up. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe we live in interesting times, as the Chinese once said.
That's the one thing I take away about this is we're living in a historic time, and the only thing I can, I guess, kind of compare it to is I think of that debate with Kennedy and Nixon in 1960. It was the first televised debate. A lot of people think Nixon lost because of his appearance. He went and he was unshaven.
If you listen to the radio,
disheveled.
if you listen to I've talked to my parents about this, a long time ago when I was a political science minor. They said if you listen to it on the radio, Nixon won. If you watched it on TV,
Nixon lost.
He had flop sweat. The makeup was off. Kennedy was smoother, he's younger, sexier. So
definitely sexier.
But you know what those two people were? Those were two intelligent individuals that were well educated, veterans, people that have been in the political system, that knew how the system operated. They had vision, both of them, just different ways, and they were fucking intellectuals. They were smart.
And two men who were probably both politically assassinated in different fashions.
Yeah, Kennedy was gunned down and Nixon was framed.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's interesting.
I think they framed Nixon because they realized, hey, we can't just shoot these people anymore. Like it's way too disruptive. But if we can blackmail them or do something like that,
we can let an acolyte of Jodie Foster's army fucking shoot Reagan.
Yeah, right.
And the Pope John Paul.
Yeah, they tried to get the Pope, didn't they?
See, right now, the professor, if you notice,
he
has not sat down. And we've made a few points here, and I can see he's leaning forward to take the mic from me.
Why don't we why don't we talk to the professor about a thing here, and we'll come back to some other stuff in a minute here. But he's got a few points. Let's maybe let him make a couple. You got some opinions. We always love hearing from you.
Yeah.
You're a very scholarly lad. What do you got on tap for us today, buddy?
Well, my take on the debate is as follows. They knew Biden wasn't worth it, but they were lying the entire time. And because Democrats have an issue, politically speaking, where they'll believe their own propaganda. Republicans don't. But the main issue with the current political system as a whole is the fact that both major parties are both progressive parties. The Republican Party is a 19th century progressive party, and the Democrat Party is a 20th century progressive party. That leads to a number of issues because Republicans are always Democrats 30 years ago, in case you haven't noticed your entire life. Like, let's take a look even going back into the 20s and whatnot. Teddy Roosevelt, what was he doing? His big thing was national parks, right? It's a very progressive thing to do. Then what did his relative do, FDR? New Deal, Social Security, basically pseudo-socialism. Now, socialism doesn't fall to communism. That's a boomer truth lie bullshit. That doesn't happen. It's only happened one time in Venezuela. So liberalism as a whole has a problem. We are at the end of liberalism. There are no more groups to fight for. There is no more liberty to secure. The only thing that stops liberals from becoming socialist is love of property. Liberalism, after a while, it switched over to modern liberalism, which was more concerned about individual rights. Then neoliberals come around at the end of the 19th century, and they completely revolutionize liberal thought, putting it much more into a socialist lens. This comes from the French. People think it's the Italians. The Italians were the first to put it in practice. French socialists were the ones that wanted France for France. Fascism is the masculine right-wing expression of the end of liberalism. Socialism is the feminine or female left-wing version of where it goes, which is pretty typical in our society in the West right now. Like even in the 40s, we had the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Bunch of vets came back, Democrat machine took over. They were ticketing people, stealing money, stuffing ballot boxes, and then a bunch of vets said, fuck it. Went over to the National Guard Armory, stole some guns and explosives, and waged war on the sheriff.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, you don't hear about this stuff, do you?
That's interesting. I'm going to have to look into that one.
Yeah.
You think there's another Battle of Athens on the horizon?
I don't think there'll be a proper civil war here. It'll be most likely insurgent activity versus other insurgent activity. Kind of like how Syria started. Sure, you have your ethno-nationalist fuckheads, but most of the time, the right in America is borderline, if not directly anarchist. I want to be left alone.
Do we ever achieve that again in this country?
You think we're voting our way out of this?
Good point. I always love when the professor pontificates. He's got a real talent for that. You know, I could see him at some point living in a small hand-built cabin in Montana somewhere.
Flipping
Like
two fingers up to an airplane.
Yeah, like one of our uncles. Uncle,
Yeah.
what was his name? Uncle Ted?
Uncle
Yeah.
Ted. Well, I also see him possibly taking over a third world country.
That's possible as well.
Yeah, he's got to dump us onto his crew of people that he associates with.
Right.
Freely associates with.
I'm guessing they don't probably communicate via typical cellular means. It's probably something more aligned. I believe the CIA refers to it as secret writings.
Well, there's manifestos that are created,
like
pamphlets that are handed out at certain
Codes.
events. And then I believe the ham radio.
Yeah, absolutely, the ham radio.
Yeah.
They have the license plate, too, that says ham radio operator and things like that.
Hammer one. Eventually, there'll be a call out where it'll say, John has a long mustache.
Yeah. And
the chair is against the wall.
That means initiate step one.
Step one of the resistance. You've continued the resistance, but the Allied forces are now landing.
It'll be like an old Cold War numbers station.
Go blow up your bridge that you're assigned to.
There's a radio frequency that'll just go 19, 17, 62, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's all the codes.
John
They still exist.
has a long
Those
mustache.
those things still exist, though, number stations.
Yes.
It's crazy. Like, some people post about it and stuff like that, and you can listen to it, and it's just someone or something reading off numbers and stuff like that mean nothing to the actual listener unless you know what you're listening for.
Well, you got to have the book. Yeah, you have to have the authentication book.
I wonder what they're talking about.
Well, I think it's probably like the lone nut
Yeah.
is dialed in on the number system.
Yeah.
Well, so you reached out earlier in the week about music.
Speaking of listening to shit, I haven't been listening to any number stations lately, but after the instructor gave us that gift, the Barry Lyndon LP.
Well, I think that gift was for you.
It was, but I mean,
I don't mind a nice harpsichord once
Yeah.
in a while, but I think you may be probably in your powdered wig and your makeup and your heart accents on your cheekbones.
I started listening to a few more record albums after that. They're a little generic. It's not like I'm breaking new ground here praising these albums. They're two of the best-selling ones, I think, in the history of music or modern music. One is Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, and then the other is Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. You know, I've listened to them many times in the past, but recently absorbed them again. And it's amazing to me how they just don't make things like, they don't make albums to sell anymore, I guess, with, hey, we're going to try and pack every song into this thing is going to be an absolute banger, like on Rumors. There really isn't a bad song on that album. There's a couple songs in that album that are like, I don't know, man, pretty close to flawless. Like Never Going Back Again, or I Don't Want to Know, Gold Dust Woman. I mean, these things are, I guess timeless would be the right word. Not only that, but during production, the whole band was screwing each other, literally, which made things weird. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were together, and then Stevie Nicks started hooking up with Mick Fleetwood, and Lindsey Buckingham might have been hooking up with Christine McVie, amongst others. Came close to probably disintegrating the band, and eventually they did. But man, they came out with, I think, one of the best albums of all time there. Probably about 10 years ago, I saw them in Minneapolis at the Target Center. It was the first show they had done in almost 25 years that included Christine McVie, who died about a year ago. I was at that one, real up real close to the stage. I had to pay a pretty penny for the tickets, but it was some of the best money I had ever spent. That was a really, really impressive concert, even though they were old.
Yeah, my wife saw them in the early 80s.
That would have been something.
They were a little under the influence
I
of
believe
various
it.
drugs and alcohol, and the performance may have not been that good.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I think normally they were known as, really putting on a really tight musical show.
I think the drummer was carried out.
No shit, huh?
Yeah.
I believe it. It sounded like he really enjoyed putting his entire face into a pile of white powder, amongst other things. Lord knows what. As for Dark Side of the Moon, I don't know. I mean, that one doesn't really have the hits.
There is no dark side of the moon. The whole thing's
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's all dark. That one isn't really the hits, unless maybe you count
the concept. It's
Money, maybe.
That's a great album for like a cat like me, where you could put on headphones and put an LP on and then just listen to it.
It's kind of a journey.
Including the pops and the snaps on a LP. And that album, I think, is I like it way more than
Rumors.
And I'm not a Fleetwood Mac person. I appreciate the music. I think they're creative. But growing up listening to KQ92 and hearing Fleetwood Mac every
Ad nauseum.
day,
Yeah.
including Pink Floyd. But Pink Floyd, you can go into a deep dive.
Is Dark Side of the Moon your favorite album by them?
The Wall.
The Wall is?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't have you pegged as a Bolshevist. That's kind of a real dystopian sort of album.
At the time when I started listening to it, was a time when I really started getting into music and appreciating albums and buying albums, and it was The Wall.
I heard that Roger Waters puts on a real good show still to this day, where he does like The Wall. It's like a Wall concert.
Yeah, 1988, we at the Metrodome.
No kidding. That must have been cool.
That was the first show I ever went to that had like a movie screen and interactive stuff going on behind, and then all the shit that they do that's flying pigs.
They were real kind of technologically groundbreaking with their concerts.
Yeah, and then what those guys did in the 60s and early 70s.
They took enough LSD to basically ruin the original singer's life or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, he did it. I mean, not like the band.
What was his name? Sid? Something?
Sid Barrett.
Yeah.
I think he finally died a couple years ago from like kind of some mental illness type stuff.
But those are two solid albums. It's just taste.
Yeah.
I like Pink Floyd. I can listen to them. Dark Side of the Moon's a great album. You can sit there with headphones and just listen to it.
That's basically what I did. I mean, I didn't have headphones on,
I
but
don't, how many people that
with the
are in
exception
there
of flipping the record,
that are 15 right now, you know, they put on their earbuds and then listen to modern music.
there might be a few out there. I
mean,
don't know.
what is being made. There's stuff out there that you and I aren't aware of because we're not on the internet in that fashion of current music.
Yeah.
They were talking about some Pink Floyd on a radio station I was listening to. They were also talking about Fleetwood Mac maybe a week ago. I was doing some work in the garage.
Oh,
and they
really?
did some deep dives and, you know, and got some chatter on the background. And I enjoyed it. Listened to some songs that I have not heard from Fleetwood Mac, and they were good. It's great music. For me, it's just doesn't hit it.
It's too, yeah, you heard enough of it.
Yeah, but, you know, then they started talking some of that stuff. I mean, they were kind of a English blues band, weren't they, in the late 60s, and then came over?
In their early stuff,
Yeah.
Fleetwood Mac was, I believe, quarterbacked by this dude named Peter Green.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Christine McVie was in the band.
Yeah, she was.
But, it was mainly, a blues thing, and then it took on its own kind of entity and changed, directions massively into this kind of pop band once they brought
But it definitely captured a
Nixon
70s
Buckingham.
boomer, the me generation feel of
Totally.
people that age.
Yeah.
You know?
Once those two, I guess they wanted to hire I can't remember who they wanted the most, but they were like, dude, it's a package deal.
Yeah.
Because they were boyfriend
Yeah.
and girlfriend. And now they're, of course, broken up. I think with a band like that, they can't stay together for more than a year or two.
What's that female again, the other singer?
Well, Christine McVie died a couple of years
but
ago.
the other one.
Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks, I mean, she had a nice career for a long time.
Huge.
I think I'm surprised she even has a nose from the amount of cocaine she
Yeah.
probably did.
Right.
But she openly talks about it. But I mean, she, the mystical kind of witch looking dancing around with her
Yeah, she does appear
singles.
to be quite pagan.
Mm-hmm. Which is fine. But
It's fine, I guess, if you want to burn in hell.
yeah, that's her
Yeah.
choice. That's not me to decide.
Right. It's not mine either.
But lately, I mean, it's the year 2024, right?
That is the current year, yeah.
Yeah. So 40 years ago in Minneapolis, there was quite a scene of music being released. And I keep hearing on this date, this album was released. On this date, this band released this album. And it's all local music. So you have the Replacements that had Let It Be that was released later this year. You have...
Purple Rain.
Yeah, Purple Rain. I mean, how big was that? A movie, Prince. And then you have Husker Du, Arcade Zen, that comes out. Huge band, locally. And then today, in music history, 40 years ago, The Time releases, Ice Cream Castles.
That was
Morris Day.
Morris Day and
The Time.
Terry Lewis guys or Jimmy Jam or something.
Jerome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
But
guys
that's
were,
all Prince music.
Yeah.
And then, but you have that. I mean, that's just 4 examples from 1984 in the Twin Cities.
Minneapolis was really, really, really one of the music kind of epicenters at that time
Plus, you had Soul Asylum out
in
there.
the country.
It
I mean,
is.
until Seattle took over in like the early 90s.
Yeah. Well, a little bit.
I mean,
Grunge. Yeah.
I think the 80s was kind of Minneapolis in a way.
Sure.
I mean, the only other thing would be like the Brit New Wave sort of thing, and that was
Yeah.
in another country.
And that was a little earlier.
Yeah.
And then also, you had what? Bruce Springsteen releasing Born in the USA. You had Madonna had a huge album. You had Van Halen with David Lee Roth still around releasing stuff in 1984, right? So you had some big time music.
Man, I'm really not into the Boss, though.
Some of his stuff is good. I don't like him politically, but,
He used to be unpolitical.
Yeah.
Until about 20 years ago.
I mean, there's people that say that he saved rock and roll, from all the techno bullshit and all the, disco faggotry.
If you listen to him sing, though,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't really like, I guess, the way he sings. Other than the thing I'm real critical about, he kind of seems like a mumbler a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
However, that one song, I'm on Fire, which I think is real good example of how he mumbles, that song is still really good to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I don't hold him as like the savior like people did.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy some of his earlier stuff, but I'm just going to throw it out there. 40 years ago, The Time, The Replacements, Husker Du, Prince.
That was when you were in your heyday, man.
I was a freshman in high school. I saw a good movie,
Which one?
Child 44. Gary Oldman,
Is it a newer movie?
Tom Hardy.
Like it's in theaters right now, or
No,
what?
I think it's you stream it.
Like
I think I watched it on Prime.
a year or two old?
Less than that.
Okay.
A year old maybe, or within the year.
What's it about?
It's set in the 50s in the Soviet Union.
Interesting.
There's a serial killer going out killing children along a railroad.
Oh dear.
But in the background is the oppressiveness of communism and a Soviet life back then. So it puts communism in a way that it makes it look disgusting and horrific.
They do, huh?
Yep.
Really? So
Yes.
they're honest about it.
Very honest
or at
about
least, somewhat honest.
No,
about
they are. It shows the fear that people have to question or say anything or act or willing to lie for the state.
I got to say, man,
Or turn each other
right
in.
now, that shit really hits home. One of the only movies I've seen in recent memory that kind of paints that picture a little bit was the miniseries Chernobyl. Like, they were pretty good, I think, about showing that ultimately what was happening with communist Soviet Union was that you wanted to be a part of the ruling class. Well, you're going to say this, this, and this. And if you don't, that's fine. We'll find somebody else who will.
We watched another movie that was somewhat interesting. I can't remember, what was it, Tank 34, T-34? T-34, it's a Russian movie. It's dubbed in English, but it's set in World War II, where it's based loosely off a story of some Russians that get captured as POWs and are in Germany. And the Germans capture a T-34 tank.
No shit.
And want these guys to fix it, repair it, get it up and running, and then use it as live bait for their cadets in the tank corps or whatever. And then they end up using the tank with some live rounds and escape because
No
they
shit.
found some live rounds in the
Sure,
tank that the Germans overlooked because there were bodies in it. Anyway, it's a true story, but there's not a happy ending like the movie.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
They make it 50 miles or something and then get slaughtered.
Yeah.
But they did it.
T-34. Huh?
Yeah. It's not a great movie. It's dubbed and it's over.
Yeah.
But
And it's Eastern Bloc,
but if you ever play Tank of Warfare or any tank type video game,
World of Tanks.
you would have a boner.
I have played that game, World of Tanks, but then I realized shortly after playing it that it was nothing but a farm for microtransactions. Nothing says communism quite like starving. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I got to say, Bubs, I liked this show because
We're sober.
we didn't poison ourselves.
We're sober.
Yeah,
We have clarity.
Yeah, we're sort of on our game, laser-like focused, which is far different than, well, what you're going to hear here, for example.
I'll stuff my face right in there.
Yeah.
I'll stuff my face right in there.
That's why I'm here.
It's going to come out.
That's why I'm here.
I'm going to come up looking like
I'm your
Scarface.
brother's keeper. You're my brother's keeper.
So yeah, as you can hear from that proof,
We had a shine on.
I had a chemical reaction to all that alcohol. Let's put it that way. And I don't want to do that again.
I'm with you.
I'm not going to bullshit you, Bubs. I hadn't been that hungover in probably years, plural.
Well, I'm gonna go with the choice of your liqueur.
2 to 3 years, plural.
Yeah. I was playing hurt the next day, but I had to do the honorable thing and act like I wasn't.
I believe I had the day off the next day, thank God. But I'm going to use the Phillips brand very sparingly in the future.
Yes.
And I think it'll be a year or two before I have another actual White Russian.
I could probably have one tomorrow, but I will not.
I felt like I was drinking fucking bathtub gin that day, man. I mean, that's how I felt the next day.
Yeah. I woke up like I went a couple rounds.
I'm not doing it again.
No.
Not at my age.
Let's swear that off.
Fuck that.
Right now. Right here.
I promise you that we will not drink Phillips White Russians to excess again for the rest of my life.
Very specific, but thank you. I will join you on that journey.
In this basement, we're simply not going to do it.
No.
I might even make a sign for it.
No White Russian. No Caucasian.
None.
No,
I had a great time watching the movie and talking about it.
Yeah,
but
that's fun.
happy 1 year anniversary as well. We're celebrating it today with coffee instead, but show we've been doing it for about a year, and I don't know. We've got probably 40 or 50 hours out there. You got anything else, buddy?
Just those sexy people, you know who you are.
Thanks to those people a lot.
Bubs is out.
See you guys.